my first tag matches were on LFG. Like
Wow.
we were still learning the rules of like with the ref and like tag in, tag out, what is illegal, what is it, we were still learning all of that. So like, sure, reality TV is scripted, but as far as the match work goes, that was real. That was
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Bonjour. You're watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad, and today we have an amazing show and nothing but amazing guests. You've seen her on LFG, former WWE Superstar, formerly known as Jin Tala. Please welcome Lady Leigh. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fabulous. So let's talk about it. You were released from WWE as Jin Tala. Now you debuted on the independent scene as Lady Leigh. What was the transformation? What made you decide that on that name? Obviously being in your own.
Yeah. So, my name's Leigh Laurel, and on LFG, I was already formally known as my government name. So, I wanted to still kind of keep that connection so that, I can keep the fan base I had already started growing. But also, I just wanted to add like a little something different. It's not like a completely gimmicked name or anything, but I liked the idea of putting Lady in front of my name because I think part of who I am is very much a combination of like wanting to be that like ladylike figure, but also kind of reshaping what being a lady means to a lot of women.
So what was the transformation process? Like oftentimes I feel like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, being let go from WWE is almost the equivalent of being let go from a job. And you kind of go through these processes, especially like, you love the job, etc. What was that process where you got let go and you kind of said, okay, this is the direction I want to go in for the indie scene, etc.?
Yeah, of course. It was obviously really hard. I think when it comes down to my careers, I've always been the one to go above and beyond with my job. And I just felt like this is the first time I've actually gotten fired for something. And also like fired is a very harsh term. Like I got released. There was no given reason. I asked, and it's always just a business decision. So they kind of leave you high and dry with that. And at the time that I was being released, I felt like at the Performance Center, I had just hit a wave of progress. So it came to me as a shock because I finally, I was only there for a year and a half. I finally felt like I had potential. And I already started growing that passion for pro wrestling. I fell in love with the ability to make stories and just, the Shakespeare behind wrestling and how fun that is to create something so special live. So it was soul crushing, but I told myself, look, I don't have to decide today whether I'm going to continue my journey. However, because I knew where my potential was as I was leaving, I wanted to keep wrestling, even if it was just going to practice somewhere else at a wrestling school nearby. I knew that when the time came to make the decision in my head, yes, I still love pro wrestling, then I didn't have that gap of no training where it would put me back. So I looked at the foundation of pro wrestling run by A Steel and also the Dungeon 2.0 with Natty. And I said, I'm going to go to these. I literally went. So I was released on a Friday, and on a Monday I was already back into a practice. And I said, what? It's either this is going to be my conditioning just to stay in shape, or when my mind is right, I'm going to keep pushing forward. And I decided my journey wasn't over. I wanted to keep going. I just, if you ever feel like you have like that potential and like that spark of like, oh my gosh, I'm getting better, I'm seeing the progress, like why do I have to quit? I don't have to quit. Like a release doesn't mean I have to stop that journey. So that's how I think it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. There's especially in the entertainment industry, oftentimes I've been in that position too, where it's like everything's going full cylinder and they're like, oh, we just have to tell you. I'm like, wait, like there's like, I did absolutely nothing wrong. So I definitely know that feeling where it's just like, okay, what next? Now, as far as the independent scene, WWE is definitely different from the independent scene. So what are the kind of the differences that you realized when you kind of took your first couple bookings where you're like, okay, this is not Kansas anymore?
Well, like, of course, the biggest difference was, you know, at the Performance Center, we wrestle the same athletes over and over again. We established that professional relationship with them. You go out on the indies, okay, you're no longer wrestling the same people. You don't know everybody's wrestling style. And for somebody who was new to pro wrestling, in general, I've watched like limited amount of promotions on the indies, and so getting familiar with all of the names out there. And the other big part was not always having the time to plan out a match or, you know, get to talk with your partner in the ring, you know, things like flight delays. The person you're working with isn't there on time or something happens. And you got to put everything together in like 10, 15 minutes, go change. And sometimes, like, especially being new to the indies, I'm usually scheduled on the card like first or second, like somewhere in the beginning. So it's like, okay, like it really is crunch time. But that was scary at first. Now I'm thankful for those experiences because now it makes me think faster and also just really think about the meat and potatoes in the match and allow the creativity and the flow of, like, we have our arsenal of moves and stuff like that. We just place them in as we go, and as long as you have like the meat and potatoes, like you could have a phenomenal match, and then you know, after the match happens, you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I can't believe we just did that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But those are like the two main differences, I would say, that brought a little bit of anxiety. And other than that, like just being able to travel around, you know, of course, NXT and WWE gets to travel around, but as somebody who was in development, just doing the WWE Evolve and LFG show, that was very in-house in Orlando and just around Florida. So being able to go to other places has been an amazing experience as well.
So now you come from like a bodybuilding background, and to me, there's a big difference between bodybuilding and wrestling. So what was that like? Take us through essentially bodybuilding, and then I guess how, like, your journey to WWE, like how they discovered you and like your first bump, like.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it was at the time before I got discovered off of Instagram. I was bodybuilding, powerlifting, and also was doing like meet and greets for both the fitness industry and for anime cosplay industry as well. So I don't know if they scouted me off of cosplay because, you know, like wrestling is also about character, gimmick, stuff like that, or if they scouted me because of the fitness side. Maybe it's the combination of both, but that transition was pretty difficult at the beginning because like my training before was just so heavily on building muscle, and my type of cardio and stuff like that was very like structured, and there's just nothing like cardio in the ring. There's nothing that can prepare you for that besides conditioning in the ring. So when I went to my tryout, it was December 2024, I think. It was in-house at the Performance Center. And the first time I ran those ropes, I was scared because I didn't realize too how much bruising would be happening that day. My back was bruised, my lower back was bruised, like my butt was bruised, everything was bruised, my arms. And I think over time your body just gets used to hitting the ropes and stuff like that. And especially WWE's ring, it's like it literally is like a thick rope with just tape over it. And so that was like a big shock at the beginning, and then like bumping and stuff like that. I'm like, this goes against everything in your head, like about protecting yourself. Like, so it's like getting through like this new habitual pattern. That was very confusing, but also very liberating once you get through and push through the trying to protect yourself. Yeah. So, but I think also with bodybuilding, because I was fairly strong already, a lot of the pickups and the powerhouse type moves aren't as hard for me, I think. And I felt like, everybody was finding their style of pro wrestling. You have the high flyers, you got the powerhouses, you got them like MMA martial artists. And like, I was kind of in between where I have that background in martial arts as well. And I have enough like strength and muscle for powerhouse moves. So it was kind of nice being able to combine everything into one sport.
So with LFG, I watched both seasons, the first and second season, and you saw it. It's a little bit of how much of it is how much of it is reality TV. You know what I'm saying? Because they show pseudo realities where it's like they're following you all around, but LFG seemed a little bit more structured. So what was the taping like for LFG?
For LFG, it, one, incredible experience to work with legends. And they did give us very good advice. And we were all fresh. Like, I want these people to understand that a lot of us going into LFG, like there was a good, I think half of us in the first season and later on the second season that I wasn't involved in, but we had just started. Some people had just like even came to the PC that week.
Oh, wow.
And we're getting like the medical clearance and all of that, like to start at the PC. As soon as they were cleared, we were on that show already. So when I tell you, I think I maybe had like a few in-house matches before going into the show. I knew what a headlock takeover was, a tackle, a drop down bypass, those types of things, like the bare minimum basics. And we go in there. So sure, it was reality TV, but as far as the matches go itself, we were learning like at such a quick pace. And it really put all of us to the test. Like my first tag matches were on LFG. Like we were still learning the rules of like with the ref and like tag in, tag out, what is illegal, what is it, we were still learning all of that. So like, sure, reality TV is scripted, but as far as the match work goes, that was real. That was real. And a lot of times, like, we were stiffing each other and stuff like that. But like none of us took it too seriously, because as far as like getting upset for getting stiff, because all of us were brand spanking new, besides like a few people in LFG who had been there for a few years. But yeah, it was definitely something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
And you have it documented too, so like that's never going away, which is a good thing. One of your coaches was Booker T. So what was that relationship like, and like what advice did he give to you that you still kind of use today?
Yeah, Booker T, like he's such a cool guy. He's got immense aura, and like he walks into the room and just makes you and everybody around like feel also special to be in that moment with him. And the few things that I really still utilize today that Booker T has taught me was, it's when you plan a wrestling match, it was like, don't forget, like this is like Shakespeare, like the emotions, the entertainment aspect of it. Like it's not just let me hit this move. Like, it's a movie. Like make it a movie. Every little thing you do counts. Like like stylistic points as well in the ring. Make it your own. But just he broke it down for me because we were all learning the basics, like I said, like wrist locks and stuff like that. But because we're all doing it, and learning it together, we were all doing it the same way. And he was like, how can you make this your own? So that was a major point for me. I'm like, okay, yeah, because otherwise we're just like copy and paste of everybody next to us.
Right.
And then just building the confidence. Like, obviously, a lot of us were like scared little hatchlings trying to figure out what pro wrestling is. And, there were some really hard days in LFG where we're like being criticized by our match and like taking that constructive criticism. But we were filming 3 times a week, every week. And there were just moments where you could see like us kind of like our light being dimmed down a little bit. And he kind of like helped us revive that and keep our confidence. And I have to hand it to Booker T because at the time of LFG season 1, I was dealing with a little health thing. And a lot of people don't know that. Like I kept that off of social media and everything, but I had a little health scare, and he caught me like outside, and we had a little heart to heart, and I was crying my eyes out, and he just made me feel like a human in that moment, and that work is important, LFG is important, filming is important, but so is your health and you. So I got to hand it to him because he kept me together for sure.
Nice. Do you still like talk to him once in a while since being let go?
So I did talk to him over the phone when I got released, just giving great advice about what to expect on the indies and what I should be doing. So, there's just so many like uncontrollable factors on the indies, and I also was trying to figure out, okay, how can I get booked more, stuff like that. And he says, just focus first on your wrestling, go to your wrestling schools, work on your promos. He said, everything in due time will come. Like if you are getting those bookings, even if it's only a few in a month, if you're wrestling well, people are going to notice. So, you can do all the social media things to get noticed, like, sure. But at the end of the day, talent will always be noticed and eyes will always be on you. And that's how you're going to get your bookings. So it's just being patient and just waiting for the right moment. It's like sometimes you just can't force things. And so that made a lot of sense to me because, I'm out here trying to get as many bookings as possible. But like, if I just focused on the craft and people notice it, then they'll reach out themselves. And in that case, it's also just a better way of business for me too, because if somebody wants me already, then, it's a good working relationship instead of me trying to force something to happen.
Yeah, for sure. What was the difference between LFG and Evolve, like as far as like the taping or the preparation for it?
Yeah. WWE Evolve, I think, is a great way to get you prepared for what NXT is going to be like, because it is like TV taping, even though it's not live and it's pre-recorded, it still is run very similar to what a TV taping would be live. And there is an evolved crowd and an audience there too. So it kind of gives you that type of feedback. And LFG, we didn't have a crowd for a lot of our matches. We had like a few where it was like a dark match on NXT.
Yeah, I remember that.
Those were very good for feedback with the crowd. But yeah, as far as working on promos and stuff like that, LFG, we had maybe like a few segments where we had to do a promo. But for WWE Evolve, it's like, okay, there are storylines that you're going to be in, and this is the promos you got to do. And backstages, it's very much like preparing people for what NXT would be for them in the future.
So what is the difference between Jin Tala and Lady Leigh?
Big difference. So I think with the Jin Tala, I would say big difference, but at the same time, I think I'm still the same person. Like Jin Tala, I was trying to be this like super aggressor, but I think at the time I wasn't prepared for that. Like I think I needed to develop a lot more. And now that I'm on the indies, I feel I've gotten to that point where, yes, I am that aggressor. And I've, even as a baby face, like I've got more of like the technical style with like grappling and chain wrestling and powerhouse moves with a little bit of Taekwondo martial arts. Like I've got kind of got like a unique arsenal, and I do like this character for me to be kind of like what you would think an assassin is like, or you know, I get compared to a lot by video game characters and stuff like that. That's kind of the vibe. However, with Lady Leigh, again, I said lady for me is my way of reshaping what lady is defined for women. Like I want people to understand that being a lady doesn't mean you're just always proper and, you know, dainty, exactly, like graceful, you know? So like you could be cunning, you could be strong, you could be so many things, like that's kind of where I've come from. Jin Tala was just a name, and I just didn't have too much of a connection to it. I know I partly chose the name, but they kind of connected. When I gave them the list, I gave them a Korean name, and a Korean name usually has two parts. And then I also gave like a Filipino name. And Tala means star in the Philippines, in Tagalog, but Jin was part of a two-part name. So in Korea, like if you just have that one part, it's not even a full name. I don't think when they looked at the list, they just saw it as like, you know, these are first names, these are last names. They didn't kind of look across and be like, okay, this whole name right here is a Korean name. So when I got the name Jin Tala, I was like, okay, it works, but also not, I didn't feel that connection just because it was half of a Korean name and then like a Filipino last name. So
yeah, I could actually see that when I was watching LFG, that and also there's, you know, everybody develops into their character, but I could feel like you didn't connect with your character just yet. As Lady Leigh on your social media, and when you see, I could see like, okay, this is, you've embodied like who Lady Leigh is. So I definitely like kind of agree with that. And that could also be the fact that, you know, you were just starting out and all that good stuff. So, but I can definitely see the difference between when you were on LFG to now, where you're like, now, like, this is who I am. I dare you.
Like it's hard because like, again, like LFG, we just started learning how to wrestle. So like the character development and figuring out, okay, what parts of me do I want to put into my gimmick? It like too many ideas, honestly, were shooting off in my head. And then also like getting advice and ideas from my coaches and the producers and the legends. And I think I was just like kind of overflooded with information. And I'm like, okay, my look looks like an assassin. Like people say I look like this, and I guess I can fly with that. But I just think that once I was released, I had a few months where I sat down with myself. I'm like, okay, what do I love again? Because, you know, don't get me wrong, the PC is a great place to grow. And I saw so much progress. We're in there like every single day, NXT live shows on the weekend. And I think at times like I was so caught up with the day-to-day of like training, promo class, matches, and wrestling training, you know, all of that, that I kind of like didn't really get to sit with myself too long and really think about what I wanted my gimmick to portray. But now I thought about, you know, my inspiration between anime and just all my cultural inspirations. I'm like, okay, how can I combine everything? I've changed my gear recently to something more my style. I felt like some of my gear kind of looked like other people's gear, and we were all using the same gear makers. And I recently dabbled with making my own gear. And I think the more I put it into my own hands, the more I felt like, okay, I really love what I'm wearing. I love the look I'm portraying. This is something that is completely me. Even down to like hair and stuff. There was moments where I felt like I was like experimenting with different hairstyles at the PC, but also kind of scared about how much I can experiment with that, you know, always changing your look. So, but there's just so much freedom out here to just figure everything out. And that's kind of what I needed. And I can't tell you right now that my gimmick is fully like finished, like, or that this is the final product of what I want to show. But there will be a moment where everything just clicks. And I think we're kind of getting closer to that.
Yeah. The evolution of your character, it makes sense. At what moment do you remember falling in love with professional wrestling?
So there is a few moments that I really started loving it. And one of them has to do with like my relationship. So people know now that I date Ilja Dragunov, and we've been together for almost I don't know, a longish time, like a year and a half, 2 years, maybe somewhere around there. But he showed me all of this old school wrestling and things that I've never watched before outside of WWE and European wrestlers. And I was like so intrigued by all the different stories I was seeing, like that they were able to create in these matches. And like, I knew nothing of these people before. And yet they were evoking these emotions out of me, like in a matter of like 12, 15 minutes. I'm like, how can they do that? Like that, you know, like I felt all of the types of emotions from a match. And I was like, if I could create something like this for people and have them react to my matches that way, like that is honestly amazing. And I think to me, this is like even more impressive than a movie because you've got it live taped, and don't get a million chances to get that action shot. You know, in a movie, they'll like cut it, redo it, you know, run it back. You can't really do that in wrestling. And for somebody to create such a high quality product with it being live was just amazing to me. I'm like, man, I really want to be able to do that. And the other part is watching Ilja wrestle, like watching Ilja wrestle, the aggression and everything that he brings to the table, but then is still able to come home and, you know, do other things and just enjoy life and come home safely. And I'm like, oh, like I saw on the screen that this was happening, you know? And sometimes I'm like, man, like you must be superhuman. But that's the magic behind wrestling, is like that balance between the aggression and the fight, and then somehow, you know, still keeping it safe and convincing, you know? So that, and I will say, working with Norman Smiley, he is a technical wizard, and just in general made me have so much fun at the PC. Like I loved learning from him, and he always, like, you know, came in with a smile, and it brought me to smile every day. And just talking with him and formulating different things, like I truly appreciated him as like a type of mentor at the PC.
Since you brought up your relationship, how did it start? Because, you know, we're seeing, I mean, we just saw Lash Legend and Trick Williams get married. A lot of marriages came out of NXT. I understand it, you know, with athletes being in the same vicinity, like it kind of makes sense. So if you don't mind telling the origin story, how did it happen?
So it's actually pretty funny, because, you know, we're all told at the PC, don't date another pro wrestler. And I was like, got it, coach. You know, like I was there about business. I was there about work entirely. I was at an open ring, and he was there just like working out and stuff. And I was working around with Tamara Mensa Stock, and we were working on strikes. And she was like, you know who would be a great person to ask about strikes? That guy over there. And then she like goes running over to him and was like, Ilja, can you help us with strikes? I was like, sure. So he comes over and he was like, let me see it. And I gave Tamara a forearm, and he was like, that strike was shit. That was the first thing he said to me. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I've watched your stuff, Stand and Deliver. I've watched like you on NXT. Like, you know, he gave it to me straight. And I was like, you know, I respect that, because as somebody who, you know, makes everything aggressive, his strikes look phenomenal, I'm like, okay, it must really be shit. But he was helping us with our strikes and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that's kind of, I don't know why that started our relationship, but I remember like asking for his advice and stuff like that. And originally he had asked me out for coffee and talk about wrestling, but I think he was coming back from TV, and he was like, yeah, it's really actually hard to like figure out our schedules, because I was also on a pretty like rookie schedule where I had to be places at the PC like most of the day. So he was like, oh, how about dinner? And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess that's the only time. And I'm very naive. So I was like, oh, like, yeah, we're just going to be talking about wrestling at dinner. And I remember telling, I was telling Tamina Tulepa, PJ Vasa, about that. And she was like, Leigh, I think that's a date. And I was like, I'm not sure. Like, and she was like, well, because I was like finishing up at practice, and it was like 7 p.m., like after open ring. And she was like, yeah, we'll shower and, you know, wear something nice. And then sure enough, it was a date. So yeah.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. How is it, you know, again, because the indie scene is different from WWE, how is that, you know, making that relationship work? Because scheduling is crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. You know, we actually have scheduled like most of the time, like a day night, at least like 2 times in a month, or just, we do everything together. And some people might say like, oh, like, do you not get your me time? Oh, I do. Like he doesn't play video games and stuff. I have my PC, I play my games, you know. but anytime we could do something together, whether that's going to the gym or, he still conditions himself with wrestling training. He's always wanting to go to practice with me because that's just him being a professional. He never wants to sit and like rust, He always wants to be ready for any TV matches. So being able to practice with him, go to the gym with him, go grocery shopping, just like the small things.
Gotcha.
We really make the most out of our life together outside of like all the travel. But yeah.
So you said once you kind of left WWE, your eyes opened up to a bigger world, especially in the indie scene, to a lot of other women wrestlers. So who is your like top 5 matches you would like to have? Like if you could script out the rest of the year, who would you like to have matches with?
Ooh. So I had a match with Serena Vale, but it was a triple threat. I met her during Mania week, and she works with NWA. I would love to work with her in a singles match. Now that one of my good friends, Serena Linton, also is working the indies, would love to have a singles match with her. I actually don't know if I ever had a singles match with her while we were at WWE, which is actually surprising. I think I've had a lot of tag matches with her. Harley Hudson would be another one. I think we could have a pretty entertaining match. Indy Hartwell. And I mean, I could name so many people. Like was Alba Fire is now like Kylie Ray. She went back to her indie name, but there's so many like Mercedes Moné and AEW. Like I just got put onto Maya World, also amazing. I could keep going. Athena's out there, like there's just so many girls out there on the indies that I definitely would love to have a match with.
Okay. And then if you can, as far as your career now, what do you want it to look like in the next 5 years? Like, for instance, if WWE came calling back, is that something you would consider right now? Or if you could plan it out, how would you plan it out?
If it were in my hands, which right now it is, I really want to solidify what my gimmick is going to be. Like, and not only that, but in general, I want to get to a point where I feel like I can work anybody and everybody, If I can create that universal language and be able to have a match with anyone, I think that will be what could, make me most prepared for any type of TV situation, whether that's WWE, TNA, AEW, like anything like that. If WWE were to call me back, I would, gladly accept, or, I just want to make sure that when that happens, or if that happens, that all of my tools are sharpened. I don't want to go back there just to be released again. Like, I know it's bound to happen to everybody. I get that, but let's not have that happen right away. Okay. I want everything to be sharpened, and my promo skills, like my in-ring ability, my gimmick, and, all of those things are important to me. And I think with what I have coming up later this year, I'm going to be entering 2027 as a new form of pro wrestlers. So I'm excited for what's to come.
Oh, you just said what you have. Do you want to say what the plan is? Just a little breadcrumb there. Like, what do you have coming up?
So I have the pleasure to be working with the Sendai Girls from September through November. And like that's just a dream come true, because if anyone knows Meiko Satomura, they know that she is a phenomenal wrestler. And I just think in general, like Japanese style wrestling is different than American pro wrestling. And I think if I could add a little bit of my experience there and then what I currently am, I think I'm just going to be a whole new wrestler entering into the new year. And I'm just excited to see what that looks like. I would love to meet me in a few months, you know? But yeah, that I've got some things I'm working with in terms of gimmick and entrance. And I think everything is just going to mesh and really come together by the end of the year.
Nice. Well, congratulations. That sounds awesome.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
I know, I can tell. Last question before we get out of here. What has wrestling taught you about yourself?
Oh, yeah, a lot. So as somebody who didn't watch too much wrestling growing up, the reason why I started wrestling is because I wanted to get to know myself better. Like I wanted to see the growth in myself. I've done many different types of careers, modeling, like fitness careers, training and bodybuilding. And I think I was always missing a little bit of that, like confidence that would just put me into, I don't even know how to describe it, but call me crazy, but when I was younger, I always thought that I was going to be a star in something. It did like I know that sounds crazy, but I was young and maybe it's because I read a lot of fantasy books and love superheroes and anime characters. And I was like, I always wanted to be some type of protagonist of like my own story where I was the star and but every career I had, I always like was missing like a little bit of that confidence. And I think as I'm wrestling, I get those moments where I'm like, yeah, I'm a badass. I'm the lady that I am supposed to be today. And there's this also part of the aggression in pro wrestling that is almost healing. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know, we've been through a lot and I feel like there's in life, and I feel like there's this part in the aggression of a wrestling match where it just like expels all that energy and I just come out like I feel like a new person after a match. I'm like, wow, like that was, you know, like there's something about it. It's just that I'm like addicted to it almost. Like, yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Before we get out of here, let people know where they can find you, how they can support you, all that good stuff.
Yes, my Instagram it's Lady Leigh with the little, what do you call it, underscore. And right now, like I said, I will be working with Sendai Girls in the future. So please watch Sendai Girls from, I think it'll start like September 23rd, Shinjuku Face, all the way to the end of November. I'll be working matches there. And yeah, follow me and watch this journey with me. I do have merch. I only sell at shows right now. I don't do it online. I'm still kind of finagling with that. And I had a shirt design and I'm now changing it. Again, my gimmick is kind of like in the works of changing. And I have a lot of different merch that is going to come out later on that kind of suits what I will be representing very soon.
Sounds good. Well, definitely let us know that. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks, guys, for watching. My name is TK Trinidad. You can watch us everywhere at www.talkpod.com. Until next time, thank you so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao for now.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at WW Talk Pod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at www.talkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.